Welcome to the Blessings Tea Time. I'm Liann Kaye, the writer-director of the series, and we are finally here with Ryan, who takes us through the arc of the series. Welcome.
Hello.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This story is about an interracial marriage and an intercultural blending of the families, which in 2022, I feel like shouldn't be a controversial story and should be more celebrated, but you know, some people still don't like that and they let it be known on the internet. I'm wondering if you had thought about that in bringing it to the character as somebody from another marginalized community.
The whole not agreeing with someone's relationship or wanting to hate on whether it's interracial or gay marriage or anything like that. I view it all as really fear-based, and I just think it's sad that people let the fear make them feel like they have to be judgmental. Like, yes, it might be something you don't understand, but if you just open up to it, you could be like, oh my gosh, this is really amazing.
Think of what we're gaining. You know, this is like a whole world I didn't know existed.
Like, the way that I wanted to structure this was based on personal experience, which is why this is the story. But at worst, someone could view it as a white protagonist going through a journey. But I guess to that I would say, if it were flipped, then you wouldn't have all of these Asian characters that I got to cast.
Yeah.
Have you confronted that with your journey throughout the series?
Yeah, I definitely thought about that. It is an Asian story about an Asian family, but I kind of view it as it's not about him, but it's about this family trying to protect someone they love. When I was doing it, I just really thought well, this is their story, and I'm just in it.
Yeah, and that's how I intended it, and I hope that it comes through to the people that matter, and if it doesn't, then too bad.
And I think it's a real story.
Was it intimidating stepping into the role?
It was intimidating only because I wanted to do it well for you to tell the story that you were wanting to tell. So I think I wasn't intimidated. We had a great environment, and I always felt super comfortable, and I know how personal the story was, so just wanted to
Thank you. What was meeting David like for you?
David, I remember he was at the first episode. David is fantastic because he always comes and he helps on the set and does everything. I mean, one day he was monitoring the food, or
he was steaming drapes. I have pictures of him steaming drapes.
It was cool. I mean, I didn't feel like I needed to portray David as David because we are different, but your Leo is different than David.
Do you have a favorite episode?
It's hard to pick a favorite. It's like picking a favorite child. But I think my favorite one is the sister.
Me too.
And because when I first read it, it was emotional. It was different than the others. It wasn't so much humor. There was a little more drama to it. I think it sort of sums up what the entire series is about.
Yeah. The sister one has a very different tone than the rest of them. And I think, did you tell me that it was intimidating to play... Sorry.
Come here.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. Just stop. Was that a different muscle to stretch as an actor?
Yes, and it was a different muscle to stretch for this.
Yeah.
Because you really only saw one side of him, which was this really trying hard, and it's not that he doesn't in this episode, but I think that this is the one where he kind of pushes back a little and was like, you know what, I've been trying really hard, I've been doing this, and I love Lana, and he's kind of fed up in a way. And I feel like the sister is the first person that Leo's met in the family that's sort of like a peer or a contemporary, they're closer in age, and she's just a little more what he's maybe used to in his everyday life interacting with people.
What is it like switching back and forth between that sort of relationship to just being yourselves and being friends?
It's easy, and I think it's easier when you are friendly off the screen too. There's sort of a trust and familiarity, and then you feel comfortable going there, so to speak, with them. And so with Stephanie, we got along really well right off the bat. And that was another challenge too, is I only met the people briefly and I just had one sort of day to film with them.
Right.
So in some ways it worked not knowing Stephanie because we're not supposed to be super close, so that sort of distance worked. But then in the more sort of emotional aspect, there is something between Leo and Brittany that she does like, and he likes her a little bit too. So us having that sort of familiarity off screen did help with that.
Did you do preparation for that scene? Because there is a moment where you really have to show your remorse. I remember on the final take we did, you were like, you know, is the camera on me? I was like, yes. And he's like, okay, I'm going to bring it. I'm like, yeah, what does that mean, like, when you do bring it?
I trusted you.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I did love her. I do. I mean, you always want to do it, even if it's not.
But with film, we do so many takes.
Yeah.
Like, you want to conserve too.
Exactly. But at the same time, like, if it was on Stephanie, I'm like, well, I want to give her so she can give back, you know, like, so she gets what, you know. But yeah, I think I just really thought about what was happening, sort of what was at stake for someone, even just to generalize it, to get the sort of emotion of like, you know, what does it mean to really fight for somebody you're in love with? And then even bigger, I just think it's not just about two people being in love, it's about accepting a whole other family and wanting to be part of another family. And I think through the whole thing, Leo's like, hey, I love Lana, but now I really love your family too. And I really want to be part of them.
Because I'm not an idiot. I know this is a package deal. I know when I'm asking her to be my wife, I'm asking you to be my sister.
At the end, he's like, that's what marriage is. It's not just two people, it's all of you. And I want that. And I think he wants that so badly. And it's like this person standing in your way. It's like, I've got to convince her. So those are just things I thought about. And then knowing that it's personal for you and everything, that helps too. Like, it just gives it another layer.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you. At some point, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to afford to make 5 more episodes because they're really expensive and we had a big team. One episode I was thinking about cutting was the aunties because I was like, I don't know if I could afford them. I guess this one could go. And then you were like, no, I like the aunties. I want the aunties. And I'm so glad you did because the aunties is one of my favorite episodes and I think the funniest one.
Yeah, no, I thought that episode was super funny, which is I was like, oh, this is so comical. Like, we cannot not have it. But I also thought there is a moment where there's sort of an explanation of like, you know, we're not losing traditions by marrying someone else, we're gaining things. The aunties were very big on, well, you know, Lana has to do this and she has to do that, and if she marries you, then you're not going to have that. You know, an Italian family is different, but together it could be, you know, a shared great experience. I thought that was important to have. And there's things they talk about, Lana like being embarrassed about food.
She was embarrassed by her school lunches, so he started packing her ham sandwiches.
Things that, for me, those are the kind of things I think we want to hear and we want to know more about. Because, like, as a person, when I hear that, I'm like, gosh, I didn't have that experience. And you know, you empathize, like, it creates empathy. And I think that's so important here because then I was thinking back to school. I was like, gosh, did I ever notice, like, any of the Asian kids in my school, like, embarrassed by what they were eating or they were bringing regular food, but were they ashamed of what they wanted to bring to school? Like, that's the kind of conversation that I just wanted it to be there because I think that's important for.
I'm glad. I love that episode, and I think it's one of the best showcases of filmmaking that we have. And what was eating durian like?
I was gonna say if we didn't have it, I wouldn't have got to have durian.
True.
And that was probably one of my favorite things about the whole experience was I got to try this famous durian, and I did kind of like it.
We were talking about how polarizing it is amongst people.
But I think it was like so built up for days and days.
It was overhyped.
So when I finally tried it, I was like, yes, it did taste like garlic, bananas.
Essentially, I wouldn't let him try it until we did that take of him eating it on camera.
Which was smart.
He was such a good actor that I can't actually tell if he was disgusted by it. I guess he wasn't because you didn't mind it.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I mean, it was definitely like a strange, new, exotic taste. But ultimately, I was like, oh, I'm not like completely disgusted.
At the end of the series, this was very touching. You told me that you were sad to say goodbye to Leo for now, like when we shot the final episode. And like, tell me about that.
It's always sad to say goodbye to, you know, characters or things you write or play and do. And this one was special because, I mean, we did work on it for a couple of years. And I felt like part of that was just meeting you for the first time, and you're kind of like, yeah, I haven't made a film before. I just feel like I got to watch you just like take off and be like, you know, you're becoming this like successful filmmaker. And it was like a total ride. Like I enjoyed that more than anything really. For me, it was just sort of like seeing it grow and grow. And it's like, well, now we have these episodes, and then it was just amazing. And by the last episode, like our sets were like, they felt like major studio production. And it was just so, that's what I was like, oh, I'm gonna miss this. And you know, and things I've done since then, I feel like The Blessing sort of set a bar. And when I go to other sets and things, I always think, I'm like, well, on The Blessing we have this. Yeah, on The Blessing we have this.
Can you walk me back to the first time you saw like the casting post and like read the sides and the character description on Actors Access?
Yeah, I was thinking about this today. I remember sitting in my room and seeing the post and submitting, because it sounded like, just reading the type, I was like, oh, that's very me. And then I just remember in my mind knowing like, oh, I know exactly like what it should be, not knowing if that's exactly what you would want, but
it was.
Yeah, it was. I was excited. I mean, when it was over, when we did the first episode, which originally was just going to be that. It was just going to be a short film. You know, it's always sad when you finish something, and it was such a great shoot. We had great people, great weather. It was outdoors, and I was hoping in my mind, I was like, maybe there'll be more. I can't remember if you hinted at it, like when we made it, that maybe there would be more, but I wasn't sure. And then you sent me you're like, I wrote all these other episodes, and I was so excited to do it. I'll continue to do it as long as there are episodes to do. Hi, I'm Wright, and I play Leo in the Blessing series. Please make sure to check out the Blessing series on YouTube and at blessingseries.com. You will not regret it.